Hey everybody, welcome to another daily video Devo. Rene here, and I was just on this website called happier.com, and they were talking about what you need and what I need to live a truly happy life. And here are their top 3 things. They say that you and I, first of all, we need to make sure we've got the basics, and that is food, shelter, health, and safety. Secondly, you and I need to make sure we have enough sleep. And then third, we need to make sure we have interesting and fulfilling work. So if you've got interesting, fulfilling work, enough sleep, food, shelter, health, safety, that's essential to your happiness, according to happier.com. And I looked at that list and I thought, what a first world list. Because frankly, most of the people alive in the world today do not have those things securely. They don't have, food, shelter, health, safety, enough sleep every night, or fulfilling work. They're lucky just to have enough work to barely scrape by. So I looked at this list and I thought, are we consigning the 3.5 billion people on the planet who don't have these things? Are they doomed to an unhappy life? Well, they are if you take this view of happiness, that it is tied inextricably to your circumstances. But of course, that's not the view of happiness or joy, which we've been talking about this week in our Fruit of the Spirit series, that the Bible takes. Jesus told his disciples they were headed for a lot of persecution, and yet he tells them in John 16:22, yet no one will be able to take away your joy. And then Peter in 1 Peter 1:8 says to Christians who are being so persecuted by the Emperor Nero, they had their food, their shelter, their health, their jobs taken away from them. And yet Peter tells them, though you don't even see Jesus, you believe in him, and so you rejoice with joy that is inexpressible. So the Bible would say, you actually don't need to have even food and shelter and fulfilling work and so on to have deep joy, because the people to whom the Bible was written often didn't have those things, and yet they had deep joy. How do you find joy when you don't have those things? Well, you find your joy in Jesus and the blessings that he lavishes upon you. One of the most joyful men I have ever known in my life was a man named George Peelins. George, for years, was the director of the Pajaro Rescue Mission. And when he was dying, he was going blind. He had cancer. All of his organs were failing. He had every right to complain. But I'd call up George, and he would have so much joy, it just sort of beamed through the phone line. One time I called him shortly before he died, and he said, Rene, I'm writing a book. And I said, what's your book about? Thinking maybe he's writing a book about suffering, because he's sure seen a lot of it. And he says, I'm writing a book about the many blessings of being a Christian. We are saved, we're forgiven, we're promised heaven, we've been given God's grace, we're joint heirs with Christ. He went on and on. I said, George, how many blessings are you up to yet? He said, I'm up to number 50, as he was writing his book about where to find joy. That's a great example of finding joy beyond your circumstances. That's a joy that our world doesn't really know anything about, but it's a joy that we have in God. You lock yourself into that kind of joy, and you are always going to have a great day.